Hi, I'm Susie Garden, and this is the Ageless and Awesome podcast. I'm an age-defying naturopath and clinical nutritionist, and I'm here to bust myths around women's health and aging so that you can be ageless and awesome in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. The Ageless and Awesome podcast is dedicated to helping women through perimenopause and menopause with great health, a positive mindset, and outrageous confidence. Hit subscribe or follow now, and let's get started. Hello, gorgeous one, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ageless and Awesome podcast. This week's episode is inspired by my gorgeous friend Christine, who asked me about anti-inflammatory foods in perimenopause. And I thought, what an awesome topic. That is like totally my jam. It's totally what I do with the Glow Protocol. So I hope you really enjoy getting a bit of insight into not only what anti-inflammatory foods are, but why they're so important specifically for women in peri and actually post-menopause as well. So let's dive into one of my favorite topics, I have to say. So let's go. You've probably heard the term anti-inflammatory. You've probably heard about, I've even seen it in the grocer. They talk about certain veggies, for example, this one lowers inflammation in the body. And a lot of people don't really understand what that means. I mean, I think we understand that inflammation is bad. And maybe you think if you don't have pain in your body, like arthritis or something like that, that maybe you think, well, that doesn't really apply to me. I don't have inflammation. Unfortunately, I hate to break it to you, but the majority of us do walk around with low-grade chronic inflammation. And particularly in peri and post-menopause, because of the hormonal changes, this is something that is going to impact us even more. It's the silent driver, if you like, behind many of the symptoms that you might be dealing with in peri or even post-menopause, but also even other illnesses and diseases that you might have. We know from research that inflammation is the root cause of pretty much every physical health condition, every mental health condition, and there's a lot we can do about it by our lifestyle choices. So some of the things, if you don't have pain in your body, some of the things that you might notice that could be because of inflammation in your body, it could be that you've got high cholesterol. It could be that you're feeling bloated, noticing that weight is difficult to shift, waking up tired even after a full night's sleep. Just even that sort of stuff can be signs of inflammation. It's not just about pain. So, the problem with chronic inflammation is often we're not aware of it and it wreaks havoc over time. And when we have the hormonal shifts, such as the reduction in estrogen and progesterone, estrogen in particular has a beautiful anti-inflammatory effect. And if you've experienced, like I have, the joint pain, particularly in the elbows, the hips, the shoulders that you can get from that lowering of the estrogen, it is not fun. It is not something it's not something you can ignore, actually. I know my experience of it is it wakes me from sleep when I have it. So it's something that if you know that you've got an answer by using food, it's such a simple way and side effect free way to treat these kinds of aches and pains, for example. Even things like skin health is dramatically impacted by inflammation. So we want to really make sure we're managing inflammation as best we can through our choices in terms of food, stress, etc. What you eat really, really matters. Nutrition is something that we make choices about every single day. And this food as medicine approach is so powerful. It is so powerful. This is not about doing a diet. This is a strategy. This is a way to give your body what it needs to feel calm, because yes, inflammation can make you feel irritated and irritable. So feeling calm, balanced, and supported during this hormonal transition time through nutrition is unbelievably powerful and so important. And it's something that all of us can do, no matter what your budget is, no matter, what your level of education is. If you have this knowledge, then you can make awesome decisions that are going to impact not only the symptoms that you're having, whether they be perimenopause symptoms or other kinds of symptoms from medical conditions. This is also about your long-term health, your long-term vitality, your longevity. It's so important. And because many women in this life stage, in their 40s and 50s in particular, are juggling stress, juggling sleep issues, blood sugar imbalances, and often not eating in a way that supports their unique biology, this is super important. What you eat matters more than ever. It's not that you're broken, it's that your body is simply asking for something different. And one of the most powerful shifts you can make is choosing anti-inflammatory foods. So as you know, I work in my work with nutrition, with the GLOW protocol. I work in personalized nutrition, but also it is all about lowering inflammation. And I'm going to give you some generic suggestions for anti-inflammatory foods, but I always like to just put in that little kind of precursor here that this may not be right for everybody. This is not personal advice to you as an individual. This is general knowledge, okay? And always, I will suggest that if you have a medical condition, a chronic medical condition, if you want to lose a significant amount of weight, then please do work with a healthcare professional that knows what they're doing with nutrition. Okay, so I will put that out there. And when I work with women in the GLOW protocol, we are absolutely nailing down the ideal foods for them, using their blood tests, using their body measurements, so their waist, hip, and thigh measurement, using their medical conditions and food preferences. So this is not the kind of advice that I would give clients working with me on the GLOW protocol, because they would get their own personalized foods list that is ideal for them. All right, so that being said, there is a lot you can do just with anti-inflammatory foods. Now, anti-inflammatory eating is not about cutting calories. It's not about going keto or eating clean 100% of the time. It's about building your plate with foods, whole foods generally, that support your body and calm inflammation. And it's also about avoiding pro-inflammatory foods, so foods that promote inflammation in the body. And there are many of them. So I'm going to talk about both of those. Firstly, what are some of the most powerful anti-inflammatory foods you can include? Now, you can probably Google a lot of this. So if you're in the car right now or going for a walk or a jog or something like that, don't worry. I mean, you can always go back and, re-listen and make notes, but you can get a lot of these foods lists off the internet as well. So something that's just really easy to remember is color. If you're having brightly colored vegetables and fruits, especially berries, leafy greens, sweet potato, broccoli, red cabbage, these brightly colored foods are generally going to be rich in antioxidants that help reduce oxidative stress, which is really important. Omega-3 rich foods like wild-caught salmon, walnuts, flax seeds, flaxseed oil, chia seeds, these are powerful inflammation fighters. And we get a lot of exposure to omega-6. You may have heard of omega-6, omega-3, omega-9, all of those sorts of things. Omega-3s are where we really probably, for many people, don't get enough of. I know just from speaking to people in my peri-weight loss assessment calls and looking at people's diaries or diaries and things, often fish is an under-eaten food. And, the Australian dietary guidelines recommend 3 serves of fish a week as a minimum, and most people are barely getting 1. So unfortunately, the quality of our fish is something that is really kind of hard to deal with because there are a lot of heavy metals. There's lots of antibiotics, things like that in our farmed fish, and even in our ocean fish for the heavy metals. So you do really need to look at the quality of the fish that you're getting, and unfortunately that is quite expensive. But things like walnuts, things like flax seeds, flaxseed oil, chia seeds, they're all available. They're not super expensive. Let's see what else. Herbs and spices even are anti-inflammatory, like turmeric. I mean, I think we probably all know about turmeric. Unfortunately, turmeric as a food, you'd have to eat a lot of it to get a good benefit. And if you've tried it, especially the fresh root, it is pretty hardcore. It's pretty hardcore. I've tried juicing it, and whoa, that just kind of rips your throat out. So it is hard to eat as much turmeric that you need to actually get an anti-inflammatory benefit. Supplementation for turmeric is something that I will often recommend for people that, need that additional anti-inflammatory support. Things like ginger, cinnamon, rosemary, these are natural anti-inflammatory herbs, and bonus, they make food taste amazing. So that is really awesome. Whole grains like quinoa, brown rice, oats, especially important for blood sugar stability, and that helps reduce inflammation. And also high quality proteins. So they can be plant-based, they can be animal proteins. I would be cautious on having lots and lots of red meat. Red meat can be pro-inflammatory for many people. And again, the Australian Dietary Guidelines recommend no more than 3 serves of red meat a week. Hydration, super important. And you can hydrate with water, you can hydrate with herbal teas. That helps your body just detox properly and flush out inflammatory compounds. And there are many, many, many more foods that are anti-inflammatory. So as I said, you can Google for more. Otherwise, I'd be here for a long time just listing out all these different foods. But as I mentioned before, you want to really reduce your intake of pro-inflammatory foods as well, because it's all very well to be having lots of anti-inflammatory foods, but if you're just going to offset that with pro-inflammatory foods, then it's just going to cancel each other out. So increase anti-inflammatory foods and reduce pro-inflammatory foods to get the best outcome. So the kind of things that you want to reduce are highly processed foods. So highly processed foods are foods that don't really look like food that your, ancestors would recognize as food. Generally, it'll come in a packet. If you look at the ingredients list, you won't recognize the ingredients. So that's anything that kind of falls into that category is what we would call a highly processed food. Obviously, white foods like white sugar, white flour, white rice, white pasta, they're all considered fairly pro-inflammatory. Again, sometimes with some of these things, if you're having one serve like a fortnight or something like that, it's not such a big deal. But if you're having serves of white foods 3 times a day, which many, many, many people in Australia are, then that really does have a compound effect. And we can really see a huge benefit in people that remove all of those foods and just bring them into like what I would call a treat meal scenario. Industrial seed oils like canola oil, soybean oil, things like that can sometimes be inflammatory for people. Excessive alcohol, sorry people. Generally carbonated beverages such as like your high sugar beverages, like any of your soft drinks, they would fall into that refined sugar category. So they are pro-inflammatory. If you burn your meats, if you really love a well done steak and you've got that black char, that is pro-inflammatory as well. So it's not only the food itself, it's the way that you cook it sometimes.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
How would you like to have increased energy, balanced hormones, glowing skin, and your ideal weight in just 3 months? Sounds awesome, right? Imagine having your very own hormone balancing and weight loss strategy totally personalized to you based on your body biochemistry to release excess weight, say goodbye to pesky perimenopause symptoms, and decrease inflammation in your body, which of course leads to decreased inflammaging. That's right, ladies, there are age-defying benefits as well. Oh, and of course, you have me at your fingertips for expert support so you never feel stuck or confused. I love supporting women on their weight loss journeys, and I've packaged up the award-winning Metabolic Balance Program with my signature hormone management system, giving you the GLOW protocol. This 12-week one-to-one coaching program is you and me, nailing down your health and weight loss goals, creating your personalized plan using your blood tests, a thorough health assessment, and your food preferences. And then we get started with me supporting you every step of the way. Even if you've tried everything, even if you have resistant weight and complex medical conditions, the power of personalized nutrition, mindset coaching, and my support is transformational and gets results. And I'm not even exaggerating, even if I do say myself. So if you're ready to embrace feeling like your younger self again, lose excess weight, manage health conditions, and regain your confidence, you can just DM me at Susie Garden Wellness or email me hello@susiegarden.com, and I'll pop a link in the show notes. I think that's probably all I want to talk about with that one. That's a really important point that I want to reiterate is if you're going if you want to make a commitment to yourself, to support your body, to support your health, your hormones, especially in peri and post-menopause, yes, increase your anti-inflammatory foods and reduce your pro-inflammatory foods, and that will get you the best outcome. So what does inflammation have to do with weight loss? You may have heard me say before, or if you're a client of mine listening to this, you've definitely heard me say this before, that inflammation is a blocker to weight loss. There's a few reasons why. So inflammation can disrupt insulin sensitivity. Insulin management is super important for weight loss. It can mess with your thyroid. It can interfere with leptin. Leptin is the hormone that tells you when you're full. And obviously, if you're not getting told that you're full, you're going to feel hungrier, so you're going to eat more. All of this can stall fat loss and block it, especially in the belly sort of area and our visceral fat. Because that visceral fat, it's not just about calories, it's about hormones, including cortisol. So stress comes into that as well, and inflammation. Chronic inflammation also affects your mood. So it's been linked to depression, anxiety, which these conditions can feel worse in perimenopause. There's also a perimenopause-associated depression and anxiety, which for clients that I've spoken to that have this, they say that have actually been diagnosed with anxiety and depression in the past, will say that this type of anxiety or depression in peri feels different. It doesn't feel like for them their sort of generalized anxiety disorder or their depression. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think what we do know just generally with those conditions that inflammation is linked to it. So again, if you're feeling like your mood is really being impacted in peri and postmenopause, perhaps lowering inflammation in your body is going to help with that. Certainly things like the brain fog. I see really fast improvements in brain fog on the GLOW protocol, and I do think it's because we're reducing inflammation quite quickly in the body in the first couple of weeks. So if you're feeling mentally foggy, if you're feeling anxious or have these mood swings, or you're not just feeling like yourself, anti-inflammatory foods may be a game changer for you. And sleep. Inflammation interferes with your sleep. So again, if that's something you're struggling with, then perhaps reducing your pro-inflammatory foods, increasing your anti-inflammatory foods are going to make a difference. And again, this is not just about reducing symptoms. It's about reclaiming your health, reclaiming your future health. Because remember that what you do now is going to impact your health down the track. And, for someone, as an example like myself with osteopenia, what I do now before I get osteoporosis, what I do now is going to make a huge difference to what my bones are going to look like in 5, 10, 20 years. So it's never too early to start. And we really feel, when I say we, I mean the people in healthcare, in research that are looking at this, feel like the earlier you start, the better. And you're missing an opportunity. If you're just cruising through your 40s, feeling like rubbish, but not really wanting to change what you're doing, you are missing an opportunity for your future health. So this is really important to look at. And if you can do it with food, and I know this isn't easy, I know it's not easy to change food, but even just, I'm going to talk about how to start in a minute, but yeah, just really starting to think about it and maybe just making a decision that the way you're feeling now is not the way you want to feel for the next 10, 20, 30 years, then just even making that decision, you can start thinking about, okay, I need to do my research. What can I eat? What should I be letting go of to feel good? And I know that what I've said already might sound like a lot, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming. You can, if you like, just start small. Start with what feels manageable. So here's a couple of ideas. So you could just add one more brightly colored vegetable to your plate at each meal. So if you're someone that tends to have, the same 3 veggies, for example, 3 or 4 veggies during your week, change it up a bit, but add something that's rich in color. Okay. Swapping if you've, from what I've just said, know that, I've got a pro-inflammatory cooking oil, change that for an anti-inflammatory cooking oil. Add, if you're having a smoothie, for example, for breakfast. I know it's getting cold here in Australia, so maybe that's not really smoothie weather. I'm still having smoothies because I love them. But, I add a tablespoon of chia seeds to mine pretty much every morning. And I also love flax seeds and flaxseed oil. So putting that in your smoothie, you don't even know it's there really. Reducing your alcohol. That is a bit of a game changer as well, particularly for women in peri and postmenopause. So either changing to, I don't really recommend this, changing to a non-alcoholic kind of wine or a low alcohol wine. If you're drinking wine every day, it's probably a good idea to start really kind of looking at why you're doing that. And for a lot of people, it's about stress management, or it's a habit, or perhaps it's something they do with their partner every evening. It's something that you may really wish to reconsider. And switching, I know for me, just even having your wine glass and putting sparkling water in it or something like that can be just, you're holding the glass. It feels different. It still feels nice, but you're not going to feel like rubbish later on. It's not going to impact your sleep. Don't aim for perfection necessarily. Aim for progress. Your body is constantly responding and changing depending on what you feed it. And every single time you eat something, it's a chance to lower inflammation, balance hormones, and to start feeling better again. Now, if you want a personalized plan, of course, that's a completely different kind of concept. So that would be having a chat to a practitioner. I'm always taking on new clients. I don't kind of base my practice on intakes. I'm just always taking on new clients. So if you're thinking, well, maybe that's something I should explore, you can book in a peri-weight loss assessment call. It's free, and we just get on a Zoom call. It's no obligation. I get a lot out of talking to people. It's great market research for me. It helps me with podcast topics. It helps me with adding different things into the Glow protocol because I'm constantly updating that as well. So that is an opportunity that you have as well, specifically for people in Australia and New Zealand. And the link is in the show notes. So I guess in closing, I want to just say, anti-inflammatory eating isn't a fad. We have a lot of research that backs anti-inflammatory eating up. And I remember even 10 years ago when I was studying nutrition initially, I actually started putting together what is now the Glow protocol. At that time, actually, I'm not going to say what the name is because I might use it later. But I had a really fun name for it, and it was all about low inflammatory eating and lifestyle, so particularly stress management. So this is something that's been around for a long time. It's not going anywhere, and it is something that everyone can benefit from. So I think that's about it. If you have any questions, do let me know. I'm happy to revisit this topic. If you loved this episode, I'd be so grateful if you could leave a review, share it with a friend, maybe screenshot the podcast, pop it in your stories and tag me at the Perimenopause Path on Instagram. I would love to see that. It always makes me smile. And you could follow the podcast as well, so you get every episode delivered straight to your device each week and you don't even have to think about it. All right, until next Tuesday. Take care. Look after yourself in the cold if you're in Australia. I know I do have a lot of listeners in the Northern Hemisphere. You're coming into summer, you lucky things. So take care of yourselves and nourish your body like you love it. Thanks so much for joining me on the Ageless and Awesome podcast. If you liked this episode, please make sure you click the little plus button if you're on Apple Podcasts or the follow button if you're on Spotify so that you get each new episode delivered to you every single week. If you feel like writing me a 5-star review, you would absolutely make my day. If you found this episode resonated with you, head over to my Instagram and DM me at the Perimenopause Path. I would love to connect with you.